The winter sun had barely risen over the endless stretch of Montana's open range when the stagecoach wheels groaned their way toward the quiet outpost, town of Bridle Creek, a place known less for its comforts and more for its unforgiving winds and the kind of silence that could either soothe a man's soul or drive him insane. And waiting there, boots planted firmly in the slush and coat, collar turned up against the vicious chill, was rancher Elias Thornwall, a man spoken about in hushed tones across the territory, not because he was cruel or feared, but because he was wealthy, solitary, and carried a sadness in him so heavy it bent even the bravest man's voice when they spoke his name. And it was this man, this quiet storm of a rancher, who had done the unthinkable. He had purchased a bride through a marriage broker, a woman no other man had chosen, a woman whose sealed description the broker had reluctantly handed over with a shaking breath and a warning that she came with a past nobody wanted to question. And though Elias had read that thin slip of paper under lamplight more times than he could count, something in him, a strange, aching instinct, had whispered that perhaps the unwanted deserved someone who had once felt unwanted too. So there he stood now, watching as the stagecoach slowed, steam billowing from the horses like spirits escaping into the sky. And when the door creaked open, he caught the first glimpse of the bride fate had delivered to him, a slender woman dressed in worn black travel clothes, clutching a scuffed brown suitcase and stepping onto the frozen ground with the grace of someone who had once known warmth, but had not felt it in a very long time. And when she lifted her chin, he felt a strange jolt in his chest, not from her face, though he could not yet see it, but from the way she seemed to brace herself, as if preparing for another blow from a world that had never shown her mercy. And when she finally extended her hand, gloved fingers trembling slightly, Elias reached for it, only for her to pause, hesitating in a way that made him freeze too, and then, with a courage that looked painfully rehearsed, she slowly unfastened the black veil she had kept low over her face during the journey, revealing features that made the entire world around. Elias fell silent. There was a striking beauty there. Yes, but it was wounded, shadowed by old scars, subtle, delicate, and yet clearly the reason men had turned away from her in ignorance or cruelty. And Elias felt something inside him twist, not from shock or disappointment, but from the overwhelming realization that this woman had spent her life believing she was unworthy of being seen, loved, or chosen. And for a long moment they simply stared at one another, the winter wind swirling around them like a living thing, until Elias finally spoke in a voice gentler than he had used in years, telling her that she didn't need to be afraid anymore, that the Thornwall Ranch wasn't a place of judgment, but a place where broken things grew strong again. And at those words her eyes glistened, not quite tears, but the fragile shimmer of a soul, trying to remember what hope felt like. And as he took her suitcase from her hand and led her toward the waiting horse-drawn wagon, Elias realized that whatever story was beginning here would not be simple or easy, but it would be real, and perhaps that was more valuable than any riches he possessed. The long drive back to his ranch stretched before them, a journey of frozen paths, cautious glances, and two hearts learning the quiet rhythm of each other's presence. And Elias couldn't help but feel that the land itself, harsh and wild as it was, seemed to watch them with interest, as if it knew that something rare was unfolding, something stitched together from loneliness, courage, and the faintest threads of destiny. And though neither of them spoke much, their silence was not empty but full of questions, fears, and the delicate beginnings of trust. And as the ranch finally came into view, its vast fences stretching like arms, ready to welcome someone home, Elias knew this was only the beginning, the first fragile chapter of a story that would test them, reshape them, and perhaps even mend the wounds they both carried. And to everyone listening to this tale, if you're drawn into this unfolding journey of hearts stitched together by hardship and hope, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next part of this powerful Western romance as it continues. to unravel deeper secrets, deeper emotions, and the truth behind the bride nobody wanted.